What if Carly Rae Jepsen made a Midwest Emo record? Find out on this week's What If, How, and Why. Hi, I'm Morgan Brown, and this week I posted a video on my What If playlist which attempted to answer the question, what if Carly Rae Jepsen made a Midwest Emo record? And if you haven't seen that yet, it sounds a little bit like this.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. And all the other boys try to chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
So what I've done is I've taken the original lead vocal of Call Me Maybe and I've recorded a new backing track to it using just GarageBand and whatever instruments I had to hand just to try and turn it into a Midwest emo record. Now you might have listened to that bit and thought, that doesn't sound like emo to me. I think the problem probably is, how do you define emo? Everyone has their own idea about what that genre tag means, and honestly, it's a thing that has meant different things to different generations over a number of decades now. What I'm talking about here, it's not sort of original emo, the kind of Washington DC Revolution summer, right to spring embrace. So not like emotional hardcore punk with lyrics about inner turmoil and what have you. At the other end of the spectrum, I'm also not talking about My Chemical Romance or Fall Out Boy, that kind of very produced, angsty pop punk with eyeliner kind of thing. Nothing wrong with that. If that's your cup of tea, that's just not what we're doing here. What I'm talking about really is the type of emo that, and people were playing it in all areas of the world really, but I guess a lot of the most notable stuff came out of the Midwest, particularly the Chicago region in the mid to late 90s. Type of music that combined jangly, melancholic college rock, almost kind of indie rock, with elements of math rock and post rock that were happening at the time. If you're not familiar with post rock, I guess you'd describe it as a kind of music in which bands with a sort of relatively traditional rock instrumentation break outside the confines of rock structures to play different kinds of music. So you get influences from all kinds of other areas, including, free jazz or world music or modern classical music. There's definitely a lot of stuff that's influenced by the kind of minimalism of Steve Reich. And you can hear some of that in some of this Midwest emo that we're talking about. Also, the math rock thing. So you get this jangly indie rock combined with these interesting time changes. It does in various ways connect back to your original emo kind of emotional hardcore stuff, but we're a world away from it at this point. It's all part of the same kind of family tree, but quite differing and distant branches of it. So I guess the kind of style I'm particularly looking at in relation to this video would be that pioneered by bands like, I guess, initially Captain Jazz, who were a little bit more scrappy and punky, but then the bands that came out of that, you had American Football, notably, the Promise Ring, who developed into just a really kind of great sort of like almost power pop kind of indie pop band, but whose first couple of records were quite sort of in this Midwestern emo kind of style as well. That sort of thing. But why combine this with Carly Rae Jepsen? Well, I mean, firstly, mainly because I think Carly Rae Jepsen is amazing. Call Me Maybe is an incredible pop song. I remember just hearing it on the radio all the time when it came out. Normally, if I have to listen to something on the radio several times a day, it drives me crazy and I end up hating it. But Call Me Maybe, couldn't get enough of it. It's just a great pop song. And Carly is just a great pop star. I think she does the thing that Taylor Swift now does really well, but I think Carly Rae Jepsen probably did it first. She makes pop bangers that are simple and catchy and accessible enough to be massive pop hits, but at the same time, they're intelligent and have just enough depth to actually kind of be taken seriously by adults as well. And like Taylor Swift's definitely taken that template and made it into the stadium filling phenomenon now. But I feel like Carly Rae Jepsen, what she does is maybe like a boutique version of what Taylor Swift does, if that makes any sense. I know she had another album before the album, well, the EP initially, and then the album that featured Call Me Maybe. But like most people, Call Me Maybe was my first introduction to Carly Rae Jepsen. And I just think it's an amazing song. It's really simple, but there's couple of really unique things about it that make it really effective, and that made me feel like it was going to be suitable to try and combine into this Midwest emo style. I think one of the things that I really like about it is the chord structure. Like most pop songs, it's really simple in a way. It's just using the 1, 4, 5, and 6 chords, but the way it uses them is quite unusual in that it pretty much just alternates between the 4 and 5 chords. It only really lands on the 1 in passing. Um, so it never really resolves at any point, which gives it this kind of yearning sensation of always just striving. There's always a tension where it's pulling to try and resolve, but it just never quite does. I think that goes really well with the Midwest emo style, particularly. There's a lot of that harmonic use of suspended notes, things that are hanging there waiting to be resolved, that give it this yearning melancholic quality. And although Call Me Maybe super upbeat and like really immediate, it's definitely got some of that quality in the harmony and the way the melody interacts with it. Each one of the What If videos has to be based on an alternative universe scenario. In my alternative universe, Carly and Tavish Crowe, who's her touring guitarist and also, I think, quite a regular co-writer, are on tour promoting her first album, To the War. And they've played an early show somewhere, want to blow some steam, so they go out into whatever city it is. I don't think I specified which city it was. It didn't really matter. So this is, I guess, around 2009. Go out into town to see what's happening. See a flyer for a gig by a band with an unusual name. Think, I'll go and check that out. So they go in and watch this band with the unusual name. It turns out to be Algernon Cadwallader, who, if you're not familiar with them, are a band who very much kept that Midwest emo sound alive throughout the 2000s and beyond. Great band who embody most of those kind of musical traits that we were trying to get in the backing track to this song. So they end up seeing this band by pure chance, both completely captivated by this sound, get chatting to the band afterwards. Tavish is there learning some alternative tunings for his guitar from them, and they decide to apply these new musical traits that they've just discovered to a new song they're writing, which is Call Me Maybe. Obviously, in our universe, they conceived this song as a kind of pop folk song in the style of the songs that were on Carly's first album. And then, who produced it, I think Josh Crowe is the guy's name. I'll have to check that. I think they took it to him, and it was him who turned it into the kind of pop banger that we know. So I thought, well, what if they just had a different influence that sent it in a different direction? So in trying to figure out what to do to this song to make it a thing that sounded at least vaguely like Midwest emo, my first thought was I wanted to include some sort of mathy element. Quite a lot of those bands, American football particularly, would include interesting time changes. Not everything's just in kind of standard 4/4. So I thought I'll try and get some of that in. Call Me Maybe is a good song for that because the way the phrase lengths work, you do have some nice little gaps. So I was able to kind of edit the vocal to take out some beats. So with doing that, I managed to change it so that the last bar of each phrase of the verse and the first half of the chorus are both in 7/8 now, rather than 4/4, which just gives it that off-kilter kind of mathy feel. So that was the first thing I needed to do. Having done that, programmed some drums in, tried to make it sound like an actual drummer. And then in terms of the guitars, that's really important because it's very much guitar-based music. Seen a lot of people talking about what they call American football tuning, which is a tuning that a lot of these bands used to record this kind of music. It's basically, I think it's an open F9th chord with a major 7th on top, which is, it just sounds beautiful without even having to fret any chords. It's just a really nice chord to start with. So that kind of helps to create a lot of these nice kind of yearning, melancholic kind of sounds that you get in this music. It's come to the fore a lot in recent years because there's quite a few modern players who are using it again, particularly Yvette Young from Covert, who I just think is an incredible player. So I kind of heard about this from some of these players are using this now. Never really used it before, so decided foolhardily that I was going to try and do that on this track. So essentially had to learn how to play the guitar from scratch in a new tuning. I wanted to kind of get that sort of arpeggiated feel, some kind of choppy chords, just to kind of give it a little bit of punk still as well, because there's normally some of that still going on in this kind of style of music. Also some kind of slightly more proggy, almost twiddly bits. So later on we get a pair of harmonized guitars doing like a two-handed tapping lead, which is a thing you sometimes get in some of this Midwest emo stuff. Again, it's not something that I'm a specialist in, so people who really play the style might be looking at me and going, what are you doing? But to my relatively untrained ear, I think it sounds okay. When I was first going to a lot of punk gigs and playing my own shows as well, a lot of the bands who I'd be playing with would be doing this style. I mean, I was always in relatively moronic kind of power chord punk bands for the most part, so I never really learned how to play this kind of stuff, but certainly saw a lot of these bands at the time, Pedro the Lion, the Appleseed Cast, the Jazz June, who I used some footage of in the video, hope they don't mind. Just wanted to try and make it look like Carly had an authentic Midwest Emo backing band that would capture some of that feel of these kind of sweaty little basement gigs that we were playing all the time. So yeah, belatedly attempted to master that style and layered up some guitars. As a last touch, I popped a little bit of xylophone on there, not real xylophone. I used the sample from the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover pack from Spitfire Audio, just for a little bit of detail. I think I saw some footage of American football using a xylophone and thought, oh, I'll do that too. So yeah, I think it comes out okay. Obviously couldn't use the big string hook that's like the main chorus hook in the backing track of the original because the new rhythm wouldn't allow it. So I had to kind of create my own guitar hooks. But for me, I think it works. It doesn't sound totally implausible. Like, I could have seen how Carly Rae Jepsen genuinely could have steered a little bit in this direction. Maybe not quite as far, but I could have seen her making an indie rock record. I think that would have been cool. So yeah, have a listen to the whole thing. Let me know what you think. Also, always on the lookout for any ideas for other artists that I could take on, songs you want me to try, or different genres that you'd like me to kind of mix things up with. So if you've got any suggestions, anything that I could do to improve the channel, do just let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying any of the content I'm making, please like and subscribe. That's always going to help. I'll have a new music video going up on Sunday, something different again. So watch out for that. And that's all from me for the moment, and I'll see you next time.